For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. Remember, they are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Lauer, and today I'm joined by relentless Bill Robinson from Newsmax. How you doing this morning, Bill?
I'm great, Michael. I hope you're well. And now is the time for all good Americans. By my estimates, after exhaustive research, I think that's about 300 million people, to pray, stay prayed up, double down on praying, and also ratchet up our fight. So, stand for the flag and kneel for the cross.
Well said. And I want to apologize to everybody real quick for the false start. A lot of you probably got a signal a minute ago that we went live. We had a technical glitch and then had to redo a bunch of things and restart the show this morning. Not quite sure what happened. I'll figure it out here later. But I'm sure everybody saw these attacks on ICE once again over the weekend. That Antifa has graduated to coordinated multi-unit strikes on ICE. Now, everybody saw the one where this TikTok lunatic got shot and is still in the hospital. Apparently he said she's in critical condition still. I'd seen over the weekend that they originally said she was stable, whatever, was being operated on, but yeah, apparently worse shape than I thought. But there was actually a second multi-vehicle strike on ICE over the weekend that got almost no attention in Chicago. Same thing, it was coordinated, 8 to 10 vehicles ramming an ICE convoy. Some arrests were made. But again, like, these people really need to be brought up on charges like this Lamaggie, whatever her name was. She needs to be charged with attempted murder, not to mention assault on Leo law enforcement operators and everything else. I mean, she should never see the light of day outside a prison cell ever again.
Well, we'll get a good sense as how well Pam Bondi and DOJ and the FBI are doing their jobs as we go along here. She needs to be charged and overcharged. Let's overcharge her and see what sticks. It's just hard keeping up with the myriad atrocities that are being inflicted on good Americans every day now with regard to ICE. And, I don't pity the ICE officers at all because they're really doing their job now. So I saw one little Harry Potter-esque looking little twerp cursing at an ICE agent in his face and then spitting on him. And he was on his back, like bawling in no time with 1,200 pounds of ICE beef on top of him. All you see is these huge rear ends struggling on top of the guy. And we're all loving that kind of stuff because mercifully, we haven't seen an ICE agent killed yet that I know of. Yeah, I know there's been lots of attempts, but let's keep it that way. And let's have ICE continue to ramp up the counter violence against these people because they're worthless and weak when it comes down to it, crying and bawling. And I don't know if you saw the girl who, they were just trying to carry her back, but unfortunately all her clothes got ripped off, exposing a very unhealthy lifestyle for probably her entire life. I don't know if you saw that, but and
thank God I missed that
girls
one.
In the background going, little girls in the background going, "Oh, you're tearing her clothes off," and they're just carrying her back like by all fours. So a lot of it's funny, a lot of it's very dangerous and serious. But a lot of the stuff is circumventing the mainstream media that was always trying to keep us in the dark, and that's a very good thing. So we need more of that as well. And I think overall, I feel really good about what's happening. I want Trump to amp up the National Guard going out everywhere.
Yeah, well, we need to. We need, arrests en masse. That's, again, what we keep saying is they're not going to get the message as long as we keep only grabbing the worst of the worst. All these other people that are driving these 10 vehicles that participated in this assault, again, we need to treat this like any other crime. They should all be charged with attempted murder. They were all part of this same coordinated attack. Let's lock them all up, take these pieces off the board permanently, and maybe some of these other lunatics will get the message and stop showing up. But unfortunately, we're kind of seeing the opposite. There was a big call from Antifa after this happened. Again, they, of course, portray it as if, they just walked up and shot this lady for no apparent reason. But Kenosha, Detroit, Racine, other Antifa chapters are now set to show up here in Chicago. And tomorrow, I actually forgot to grab a slide for this, but you guys remember I showed you these flyers that were going around for this, the Hamas wing of the Democrat Party. Tomorrow plans to shut down the city of Chicago. It's October 7th. They want to go celebrate the murders of all these Jews. So they're planning a protest in front of the Israeli embassy. And then for, I don't remember exactly, we'll call it 8 to 10 other spots around the city where their intent is to block traffic and shut down Chicago. And you can bet your bottom dollar Antifa is going to be a part of that. And these are probably going to turn violent rather quickly, either because all these drivers are pissed off that they're being blocked from moving freely through the city, or Antifa is just going to launch into it to begin with the minute somebody challenges them there. And I expect Chicago PD to once again stand down. We're going to get more into that here in a minute.
Well, they better not stand down, because they're leaving their brothers and sisters in arms fighting the good fight against criminals, which, of course, is the whole point. So it kind of feeds into my claim that the defund the police did a lot of damage to our longstanding big city police forces. All that's left now is the bottom of the barrel, the people who, support Antifa, although Antifa is going to beat their brains out if they can. So the stupidity of our current Chicago, New York, LA police forces is just unbearable. But I think that the point you made about we've got to keep prosecuting these people. If they're there, they're prosecutable. They're putting up now big traffic signs saying protest area, don't come in. And so if you're going to start being presumed to be part of an illegal gathering, and we all have the right to free, peaceful assembly, but this is anything but peaceful. Those poor people in Chicago have been, in Portland, have been up for 80 straight nights or whatever with these people across the street from them. There's big apartment buildings around there. And I think this is actually going to lend itself to our winning this overall battle, because the black residents of Chicago and the local residents of Portland are coming out and saying, standing with ICE and cheering USA and, F Antifa. So it's going to, I think, slowly turn into a battle between locals who want to see this kind of rioting stopped, and then and also ICE and the FBI and the National Guard. That's an immovable force. Antifa thinks they're an unstoppable object, but they're not. So so it's gonna be fun. Grab the popcorn and just know that we need to pray for our law enforcement and our National Guard.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and I wish we would see more action, because battle lines are clearly being drawn, especially in Chicago and Portland, where the police department is continuing to stand down instead of following their obligations and following the law. We're gonna get into that right now. Senior sources in Chicago PD denounced decision to stand down while ICE agents were being attacked. And Chicago attorney and retired police lieutenant suggests local police may have violated state law by issuing stand-down order while uniformed federal officer was in distress. And again, these are laws that are on the books and have been forever, because it's common sense. If you have federal agents getting attacked, then local law enforcement needs to step in and do something about it. They need to protect the other law enforcement that's operating within their jurisdiction. So these stand-down orders might not have just been unethical unethical, but actually illegal? And again, if so, the feds better actually get in there and prosecute. I'm sick and tired of them, making announcements saying, oh, well, we've got the case, here's the indictment, and then we never see arrests. Whether it's researching into things or whatever. Yeah, they're grabbing some of these Antifa people on the ground, but we've got to start grabbing the leaders that are making this possible, or nothing is going to change.
Well, of course, the difference between the Chicago police and every other big city police department is they just got caught. Now, to my knowledge, although I'd like to see Bondi try, she can't oust a police chief in a major city. But what they can do immediately is stop all funding. Just stop all funding right now. You've been caught. That's it. All funding. Schools. The schools need to be defunded and brought crashing down anyway. But schools, safety, all of that stuff. And just let the people in Chicago realize that they have no more help anymore. And then we'll see a real uprising and a real insurrection against people like Fat Man Pritzker and the big sweaty Johnson over there in Chicago. It's the same thing that's going on. They just haven't been caught in New York with Hochul and Adams, in California with Newsom and Cuban intelligence officer, communist Karen Bass. I mean, how do we let these people in there, first of all? But now that they're in there, how do we get them out promptly? We defund them. They were calling on the police to be defunded so stupidly. And now we have to just defund the lot of them and let the people in the city just rise up and start storming the governor's mansion, the mayor's home, and all that, and just light the whole place on fire. Kind of the opposite of the summer of 2020, with the political spectrums being shifted, right? All of a sudden we take over and start burning their houses. Not with them in them. Let's drag them out first and then burn their houses. So, it's just, I guess I'm advocating violence here, but they've been executing violence on us for so long that there needs to be a turnaround.
Yeah, and I think you're right. They probably have trouble removing people from office, but not necessarily arresting them. So Antifa has already been declared a terrorist organization. If the police chief was involved in any way in issuing the order to stand down, maybe Pam Bondi needs to roll the dice, take a chance, charge him with providing material support to a terrorist organization, and see if we can get a conviction. Again, half the battle is dragging them into court and bankrupting them and bankrupting the city as they spend millions of dollars fighting the charges. So maybe we need to start playing that game. Again, the left doesn't hesitate to do this. I don't understand why we're just so weak right now and refusing to do anything. Like tough talk's great. And I think Harmeet Dillon's going to go after some of these things for the we're going to get to in a minute with them violating reporters' civil rights and pursuing it from that direction. But we need big arrests. We need things to actually be happening, or we continue to send the message that, it's okay if you keep punching us in the face. And yeah, we're going to grab the little Antifa thugs on the ground that are doing it, if they finally cross that line, somebody gets hurt. But a lot of these people that are blocking federal vehicles, participating in the rest of this violence against the ICE officers, they all need to be rounded up. They're all part of the same criminal mob that's doing this. They've already been declared terrorists, so let's see some action. And let's see some, like you said, stack the prosecutions, charge them with everything you possibly can, make sure they go away for the rest of their lives. We've already crippled a lot of the left's infrastructure, so I don't think they're going to get the same level of legal help they have been in the past. But if we don't start fighting to win, then we are going to lose this fight in the long run.
Well, as much as I don't want to apologize for Pam Bondi, there's even the mighty federal government under Trump has limited resources to start prosecuting, indicting, and tens of thousands of these criminal Antifa and communist officials. So I think that we need to prioritize, and I think a good priority to enact here would be to go for George Soros first, because if we nail down George Soros, then everybody underneath him starts to crumble with fear because they realize there's no more money coming. They realize they're not going to have any lawyers coming to them. They're not going to have any judges that are going to be supporting them anymore. Or they might. The judges might support them. But pretty soon, even the judges will quake with fear once we take down George Soros and all of his shell companies, all of his fake NGOs, and all of the other similar left-wing billionaires who are obviously out of their minds because they're supporting a political group of fascists who want to eat the rich. So how can you be a left-wing billionaire? I mean, it just defies logic. So anyway, I think going after George Soros would be a good way to bring the whole monolithic, homoerotic, pedophile, Antifa, hurting our children, doxing ICE officers down.
Yeah, well, I do agree. Taking Soros off the board would be a good start, but we really do need to get all these soldiers, because the minute they grab them, now all of a sudden all these little mouthpieces that are still out there, people like the mayor, Pritzker, everyone else in Chicago, they're going to be out there again claiming, this is. We're just going after their funding to their donors. They're going to make the usual claims. It's tyranny from DC. It's fascism. If we don't take all their little mouthpieces off the board too and charge them. And I think things have escalated too far. We may have been able to bring things, turn down the temperature, as they like to say, a few years ago if we arrested Soros and had a thorough investigation. But yeah, I mean, that's the problem. They have such a big propaganda machine. That'll just going to go right along with their message, regardless of the reality. And we also have this. I want to bring this into the conversation as well. Kristi Noem reveals cartels and gangs have put bounties on the heads of ICE agents. So what she said, these are between 2 and 10,000. Most of them right now are targeting specific individuals, mostly along the border. They've been shutting down the cartel's ability to bring drugs into the country. However, these are expanding out to ICE agents and other operatives like that are making arrests, especially people who they found out are leading the teams, rounding up Tren de la Agua and other foreign national criminal organizations. So again, this is something that we have to put a stop to this immediately. I don't know what it's going to take, since these are coming from the cartels themselves. Maybe it is time to drone these guys into a pile of ash, because especially if these bounties start paying out and escalating, we know the cartels have deep pockets. Then I think this is also going to lead to a massive increase within U.S. borders. If now all of a sudden we're incentivizing all these lunatics, or not, I shouldn't say we, if these lunatics are being incentivized by the cartels to kill ICE agents. So this is something we've got to put a stop to immediately.
Well, this is one of the reasons I continue to think that Kristi Noem and Tulsi Gabbard are doing a great job. They're highlighted in the administration as having, Tulsi Gabbard in particular, but I also think Kristi Noem, they'll both be solid candidates for president in the future. And Kristi Noem's so right. I mean, again, we can employ the same priority system that we did with Soros. I want to see more of these guys extradited to the U.S. from the Sinaloa cartel and all these awful cartels down in Mexico. Forget what President Gloria Sheinbaum says. She's a non-entity. She's got no integrity. She's got no authority, even when it comes to us invading. Let's just send down the Blackhawks, take over these compounds that these guys have built for themselves, round them all up, extradite them back in leg irons, and that'll do a lot to handle the cartels. Same things with the gangs. I want to get back to Bukele and the, NCOP, the big prison down there, I guess, in El Salvador. CCOT, right. CCOT. And I want to get back to that. I want to hear more about that, because we're going to need a bigger prison down there, just like Jaws needed a bigger boat. And, we need to start. So the old Sicilian proverb is the fish stinks from the head down. So you got to chop the head off first. There's also a similar one for snakes, obviously. So we really got to chop off the heads. And that goes to, of course, Soros, the cartels, the gangs, Tren de la Agua and MS-13. And don't forget MS-13, because TDA is taken over in the public's mind now. But MS-13 is still out there beheading our children on Long Island and things like that. Yeah. And then also we've got a rampant. So that's downstream from Soros, right? But upstream from Soros, we've got the whole YEF crew, and the whole we've got Schwab and Yuval Harari and all these other people who need to be arrested on Interpol warrants that are forced by the U.S. administration, by the Trump administration. So it's got to be. We've already got the fear of God into them. They're all fleeing. Who knows where John Brennan is? I asked AI where John Brennan was. It said it was a fallacy. He was in Austria. So I don't know. You can't trust AI.
I heard he was in France, not Austria. So maybe the AI is telling the truth but ignoring reality.
Well, yeah. Well, the point is we don't know where he is, and so they're on the run. It's a good thing to have Brennan on the run, because we'll get him sooner or later. How long could a 72-year-old, I don't know how old he is, 70-year-old guy with numerous health problems hide, even in the EU? So yeah, I'm kind of hopeful. I'm kind of optimistic about what's going on. We need to keep going and amping it up and putting in more National Guard troops and going after the right people. I hope Bondi's focusing on Soros, because President Trump didn't sound like he was kidding around when he said that. And if we start seeing pushback from the people underneath President Trump on these issues and these orders, then it's going to be time for a quick house cleaning and a quick fumigation.
Yeah. Again, I just want to see results, and hopefully there was another story over this weekend. We're not going to get to it today, that some of these arrests haven't happened because the FBI agents are refusing to do it. Well, if that's happening, then why are these people still employed? So something's got to be done. But I don't really want to arrest these cartel leaders and other officials at this point. I mean, they're already running terrorist organizations. Well, what do we need to throw them in jail for? That costs money. I mean, we could just go down there with a Moab and wipe out the whole compound, and then send a couple special forces in to liquidate anybody that survived the blast. I think a message needs to be sent that for as much as the left cries about due process and civil rights, that bombs your due process if you're running a terrorist organization. You've already been put on alert. They could have turned themselves in and surrendered peacefully. They haven't. So let's just vaporize them and end the problem. And when whoever steps up to try to rebuild their organization, you vaporize that person too. And shine bombs connected to these cartels anyway, that they've already had people within within Mexico's government. One of them's in the U.S. right now, or was recently. I don't know if they're still here or not. Basically presenting evidence. So something's got to be done. This can't be tolerated anymore. Just like this. I kind of want to insert this story in the middle before we get into more of the insanity. But liberty cannot survive a culture that cheers on assassins. So this is a great story. It's over on the Blades, but it's kind of focused on something we've been talking about here for a while, that whether it's Luigi Mangione or them cheering on this lunatic that killed Charlie Kirk, this trans furry whatever he was, or any of the rest of these mass shooters. I saw it wasn't in this article, it was actually in a different one, that they're starting to put these trans school shooters faces on t-shirts, selling those on Trans Lives Matters shirts, but putting the school shooters on there and celebrating what they did. I mean, these people are sick and disgusting, but if our culture goes that direction, whether it's the left or not, again, that's going to be destructive to all of us. So I don't know what you can do to steer these 21 to 27% of violent leftists away from this stuff. But we've got to do something. Like, this is absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah. And it kind of confirms my feeling that, we can't stop these people from doing what they're doing. So let them do it. Everybody is being turned off to it. Even the people on the left, let them continue to, shoot themselves in the foot and cut off their noses. Even that photo that was up, get out of our communities. That kid is there for $20 and a sandwich. He doesn't live in the community. And the striking thing for me is, if you look closely, you see he's wearing some kind of arm brace or something, some kind of thing. Like, he's already been beaten senseless, and he's still out there with his little sign now, looking devilishly at the results of his work, with the burning carnage in front of ICE or whatever Portland building that is, whatever it is. It's
I think it's from LA.
Yeah. Oh yeah. LA. Great. So this is a kid who's probably here illegally and supporting his right to be here illegally. Sorry, lock him up. And so we need to round up these people. And I like your vaporization thing. I got to say, it saves costly court costs, costly court expenses. And so there's no reason why we should bring them back in leg irons. The cartel leaders, they should have been sent on to the seventh circle of hell a long time ago.
Exactly. They were already warned. They should know what's coming. I'm tired of this myth that we've got to give everybody a fair hearing and all that we can't blow up these boats these Venezuelan narco traffickers are trying to get here to the U.S. with. End this shit. Not everybody's entitled to due process, and due process doesn't always mean trial by jury. This is something we can't let slip away. That was something else I saw over the weekend. I don't even have a slide for, but apparently that's going to be part of the left's next big push, is somehow including in legislation that all these people deserve jury trials before they're deported. But that makes it impossible. So again, Republicans, you better hold your ground, especially all you pansies that are up there, and not be like, oh, well, the Democrats have a point here. The Constitution does say they deserve due process. Because again, that will not only bankrupt the country, but that also is going to slow this down to where we can never get rid of the 30 million people that are here unless they actually self-deport for some reason. We can't go with this. Drug traffickers that are not U.S. citizens, not on U.S. soil, and moving drugs to the United States, they don't get due process. Due process is the rocket coming in once their target was identified. These are already terrorist organizations, terrorist entities. They've been declared that. We need to start treating them like that. Or again, we're just not fighting hard enough to win, and we'll suffer the end results because of it.
Bingo on your commentary about due process, because nobody on our side got due process ever over the last 20 years. And so, the due process, the whining about due process by these low T kind of degenerates it's getting so old. It makes you so angry. And let me remind everybody that due process, while it's a legal term when we use it these days, due process is a biblical term. It's like you shall reap what you sow, and what goes around comes around, and people getting their just desserts. This is what due process really is. And so we've never gotten our just desserts. We've always been harmed by what the left's definition of due process is. Now we need to get to some real due process where they're getting their just desserts constantly and without fail. No exceptions.
Agreed. Let's go ahead and jump to this next story here. Actually, I'll pull both these headlines here. Woke federal judge hits brakes on National Guard deployment to quell Portland chaos. And Trump-appointed judge Karen Emmerget, who cares, blocked Trump for a second time sending troops to lawless Portland. So she stepped in over the weekend, said that Trump can leave the troops on the ground that are already there, but he can't send the remaining troops from California. Newsom's jumped in on this. He's threatening another lawsuit now, too, and also going to sue once again for the removal of where they've been deployed out in California. I don't expect him to win that because, again, federal law says they can protect the ICE agents and federal property, and they've already agreed to the deployment before. Trump won this case previously. But again, these federal judges need to stop stepping in and doing this stuff, or Trump really does need to start ignoring them, because that's been the problem. Is they come in, they make these ridiculous decisions, and then Trump goes, complains, but goes along with it. If they're making unconstitutional decisions like these, ignoring rulings from the Supreme Court, and I guess we'd have to see exactly if I don't know if the Supreme Court's ruled on anything related to National Guard deployment yet. Under Trump, I think it's all been these other, firings or funding issues that clearly fall under the president's purview. But at the end of the day, if we have these the saboteurs, which is essentially what they are, blocking Trump's path and blocking what can be done legally to protect these cities and citizens, Trump is going to have to resort to the Insurrection Act, and then you're going to. Are you still there, Bill?
I am.
Okay. Sorry, I've got having an issue getting your screen pulled up for some reason. There it goes.
Oh, okay. So, Karen, I think we're all getting suspicious anytime we see somebody named Karen, even if they're a perfectly decent Christian wife and mom. So she of the Barracuda smile kind of goes back to conservatives' feelings that every time Trump got his judges in the first term and now this term, that we were safe. And it hasn't turned out to be true largely. Sometimes it does. And with the recent Supreme Court decisions, it's just like clockwork. Everything comes down in favor of Trump. But for a long time, we couldn't count on Gorsuch or Kavanaugh, or particularly Amy Coney Barrett, who came down with a stunner of a stupid decision against Catholics, I guess it was. So these judges can't be counted on, and we have to do better vetting them. But the Portland situation is just beyond. I say instead of, they've talked about secession for a long time. And I said, I don't know what the opposite of secession is, where a state says we're leaving the union. But I don't know, whatever we call it, let's kick them out of the union. Let's leave them to defend against themselves. They get to protect their own borders, set up a state defense against the Russians. And let's just leave them on their own and see how the people like it. This is really getting out of control with Washington State and Seattle and Portland and Oregon. They just don't share the same values anymore, much like New York doesn't. And it all kind of goes back to this Civil War movie that they put out. I'm waiting to see it. I've got it. I got to see it. But they put it out before the election, and it was all about the blue states seceding and creating something called the Western Alliance, and then starting a civil war with the rest of the sane, rational, Bible reading, gun-toting people who know how to use their weapons. And so that's not going to end well. I think probably in the movie it's going to end that they win somehow. But
it does.
I don't think. Oh, you saw the movie already?
No, but I know it ends with them assassinating President Trump or whoever the stand-in is.
Oh, and yeah. More fantasy about killing people. That's what these sickos do.
And of course, in the movie, the military, sides with these lunatic liberals, and that's who carries it out. I think it's a drone strike. Yeah,
well, be careful what you ask for. Left-wing morons. Be careful what you ask for, because we hold all the cards. It's like Trump told Zelensky, you have no cards. You've got no cards. Stop talking. And so they won't stop talking. They're going to keep their whining and their belligerence towards law enforcement. Democrats hate the police. They hate black people. They hate, it goes on. Every single demographic you can name, they hate. There's nobody they love except for themselves. So, pretty soon the Democrat Party will be no more, and I look forward to the day.
Yeah, I think it's probably got about a 2-year shelf life, especially if they just get their clocks cleaned in this next election. They're going to blame each other. They don't have what it takes anymore to have any sort of introspection and figure out, well, maybe it's us that's out of sync with the American people. Oh, no, the problem is clearly this. That's what they're going to do. And then the party's going to divide and split. They're going to blame each other for everything. Well, they're going to blame us for everything too. But I think their base is already slipping away, except for this, around 27% of just apparently psychopaths that continue to support them and support their violence, which we're going to cover here in a minute. But we do need to take a quick break. Hear from our sponsors, and I'll be right back with even more.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Life can be pretty unpredictable, filled with good days and not so good days. And sometimes, the only difference between the two is your level of preparedness. The Jace case lets you be better prepared for whatever comes your way. It contains antibiotics and other prescription medications so that you aren't caught unprepared. With a Jace case, you are able to get your prescription medication before the unpredictable happens, allowing you to turn those not so good days into great ones. Go to jace.com now and get your own Jace case.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the great programs here on X American News is by supporting our sponsors. You can do that by going to jace.com or jacemedical.com. Use code INSURRECTION and pick up a Jace case to protect yourself and your family. Again, it's not a first aid kit or a boo-boo box. This contains antibiotics, non-narcotic pain relievers, steroids, and other prescription medication that would be necessary or even life-saving during the time of an emergency if help isn't on the way. And right now, whether you're concerned about massive civil unrest, an economic collapse, China cutting off our drug supply, or maybe you're just planning on taking a trip overseas. Right now is the time to get one of these. And again, get an additional discount. Use code INSURRECTION. They also have a variety of other products on the website that you should take a look at. But right now, again, if you go to jace.com or jacemedical.com, use code INSURRECTION. It's a great way to support what we're doing here, helping to bring you the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear, like this next story with, once again...
Michael, I just, if you don't mind, I'd like to insert a little plea there. Please help support our program. There are so many larger podcasts, 5 or 10, you can count them on two hands easily, that are, they're getting all the support. And it's the smaller ones which also deserve support as well. So we've got great products. Please help support us and keep us going.
Yes, please. But yeah, I want to jump into this. Nick Sorter got attacked again. Send in the National Guard. Nick Sorter viciously attacked again by Antifa militants in Portland. Fellow patriot knocks out Marxist thug in self-defense and is arrested. And I had this pulled up, so let me... I closed the window, so I don't have the other guy's name, the other guy that defended him. But once again, and actually, you know what? I'm going to pull up this next headline too because they're connecting. Portland Police Department smears post-millennial journalist who was assaulted by Antifa. Suggests she invited the violence on herself. Essentially, it's the she deserved it. She wouldn't have been wearing that short skirt. It wouldn't have happened. They're basically using that defense, basically saying her being there is what led to the assault. That her presence inflamed the crowd, so it's her fault. They just couldn't control themselves and bashed her in the face with a flagpole. And this is the same game they're playing with Nick Sorter. He was attacked. It was caught on video, so it's not like there's any doubt or this is a case of one person's word against another. It was caught on tape. He gets attacked, shoved to the ground, and then pushes back against them while he's trying to get away. And he gets charged with disorderly conduct, and they're refusing to charge the people that attacked Sorter, even though they've been identified. And again, this is why we've got to do something in areas like Portland and Chicago where the police are being ordered to stand down, or in this case, protecting violent criminals like Antifa, terrorists. So do we go after these police officers, charge them again with material support of a terrorist organization, and take them to court? Otherwise, nothing is going to change until they start feeling the pain.
Again, the answer, I feel, is defunding them completely. The federal government puts out billions and billions of dollars to these police departments, thinking that they're there to protect the people. That time is long gone, viewers, long gone. They're not there to protect the people anymore. They're there to arrest the patriots who knock out people who are hurting our press, like Nick Sorter, and to arrest and harm people who are pushing back against and beating up the weak Antifa people. And so you'd think the police officers would actually use some discretion. If they saw somebody pitching in and beating the tar out of an Antifa guy, you'd think they'd go, I'm going to leave that guy alone. I'm going to let him do his business because he's helping me. Or you'd think if you saw a young lady there documenting everything, she probably wears a press credential or press I don't know. She's probably identified as press. I wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't, though, because it's just such a target when you do that. But when a young lady's there documenting things, you leave her alone, too, and you rush to her aid. But they're not doing that. And that, again, proves my point that these police departments are so corrupt. They're such the militias of the communist governors and mayors that the only option is to completely defund them. No more money, so that they're not even around anymore. And then the states and the mayors and the cities will have even less of a ability to say, no, we don't need the National Guard. How can you not need the National Guard when you don't have a functional police department?
Yeah, pretty much. We've got to start treating them, again, like you said, if they're providing this kind of support, we need to go after them. I don't know that defunding is enough. I think we need arrests. A message needs to be sent that this isn't going to be tolerated. They're violating the law. They know what they're doing. In other cases where the police violate the law, they're changed or they're charged. I mean, I know sometimes when it's minor, they look the other way. If it's traffic incidents, things like that are caused in pursuit of a criminal, that But this isn't what we're talking about here. I mean, we're talking about they're allowing assaults, and in this case, now with Davis Court, I would argue that they're encouraging it with their behavior, refusing to prosecute, standing on the sidelines, and as we said in Chicago, I mean, I think it goes up. Well, they might not be able to prove to the top, but somebody issued this order to stay down, and that violates both state and federal law. So. Time for some accountability, because again, this is the big problem, is we're not seeing results from the DOJ. And we have this right here. Why isn't the Department of Justice prosecuting Letitia James for mortgage fraud? We know that they've already got indictments. I still haven't seen an arrest of her or of Comey. We had this story that apparently they wanted some FBI agent to go arrest Comey, and they refused to, and that's why we haven't seen that. Now, I did see over the weekend that there's people starting to dispute that, so I don't know if we'll see a formal statement from the FBI today, but if this is really what's going on behind the scenes, then we're in far worse shape than I would have thought. If they can't get their own, federal police to go make these arrests. Now, in Letitia James' case, again, the facts are already out there. She's already even talked about her defense. Apparently pleading ignorance is the best she's got. So let's take it to court. Let's let the jury decide, and let's start putting these people away. Otherwise, again, nothing is going to change if we're only thing we're doing is arresting these low-level thugs on the street, locking them up, and otherwise we're just talking a big game, releasing documents, but there's never any tangible result. Nobody actually pays the price for anything other than maybe, I guess, harm to their reputation, but they don't seem to care about that.
We're in complete lockstep on this one. I want these people perp walked in front of the cameras of OAN and Newsmax TV. I want these people humiliated just as they've been humiliating us for decades now, a couple of decades. And, President Trump must be going nuts. He must be absolutely losing his mind because he told Bondi in a truth. He went after her pretty strongly, and then he pulled that one back in and sent out a nice one. But he must be going absolutely nuts. So her days are numbered. We saw some pictures, some kind of friendly pictures of Bongino and Patel hanging out with some people at an event. They're feeding that through to the conservative news media now. I don't know whether it's an effort to try to save their jobs or not. But the FBI clearly is not doing their jobs. And it's kind of part and parcel about what I've been saying about the local police departments. Once you defund the police and you have all the great officers, the former military guys, the guys who love this country heading to Florida and Texas to take a $50,000 bonus and be in a safer environment that supports their right, that supports their right to immunity when they shoot a criminal to death who has a gun and is obviously trying to kill them. None of that happens in our big cities anymore. So what's left? The dregs, right? The bottom of the barrel in these police forces. And so the same thing is true of the FBI. Post FBI with the whistleblowers leaving, who's there that's, if you're a good person and you're still at the FBI, you're not a good person. Sorry. Hey, wouldn't you be tired of hearing all this stuff about there's still a few good people there, but never being identified as one and not being able to stand up as one? No. So Bondi, Patel, and Bongino, I don't know what's going on there. We've been talking about that for a long time. President Trump, here's a real plea for your help. Do something with these people. You usually take the bull by the horns, but in this particular case, you've been kind of on the sidelines. Get in there, get your hands dirty, and start firing people. Where's your fired? I want to see him at a press conference with those three and just go around each one with his finger in their face. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. That's what the MAGA base wants.
Yeah, exactly. And if the DOJ really is still so filled with corrupt prosecutors and everything else, I mean, personally, I would think it would be better to get rid of the poison, even if you don't have people to replace them with yet. If you have people internally sabotaging this stuff, leaking things and whatnot, like we keep hearing stories about, rumors, and that's why they're not moving forward. Well, time to get the truth out there. If that's really the problem, make a national call for patriotic attorneys to start applying and want to dispense justice and start correcting these problems. Otherwise, again, nothing is going to change. We had this heat up over the weekend, too. Trump and Vance calling Virginia AG candidate Jay Jones to drop out after revelations he fantasized about assassinating GOP lawmaker. Well, it wasn't just that. We also had this from Winsome Sears. Blast Virginia AG nominee for text fantasizing about murdered little children lying lifeless in their mother's arms. And again, this guy's Jay Jones, apparently an idiot. He sent these messages to the wrong person. They warned him multiple times not to do it. And not to send this stuff, and that behavior is disgusting. He didn't seem to care. Instead, like, laughed it off. There was an LOL about it in these text message chains, and then this person that he sent them to by accident decided to come forward and release them. But of course, again, the Democrats are somehow, and I don't even understand this one. We're making claims over the weekend about some kind of like unlawful search, or I know I didn't even understand, but like basically that the person who released these text messages invaded his privacy and should be prosecuted for something. I'm not sure what the laws are for if it's a one-party consent state or what. I guess that's something we should look into. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do prosecute the person that released these messages, because they have the guts to actually do things that help their political cause and use the law to their advantage. And our side's apparently terrified of it.
So Jones is another rather annoying dollar store Obama. They even looks like him. And, we're talking about Hakeem Jeffries being a dollar store Obama. This guy is definitely dollar store all the way, bottom of the barrel, 5-cent nickel bag kind of guy. And, I'm just, and apparently the woman he was texting with and saying all these things to was a Republican who he must have felt close enough to unveil all this murderous intent. And she said to him a couple of times, like, hey, I'm not really comfortable with all this, talking about shooting people in the head and killing their kids. And he just kept it up. And then the LOL. And it's just indicative of how secure these Democrats, these psychopaths, they're communists. Okay. We got to get rid of the word Democrat, because they did a very smart thing a long time ago. They took a word democracy and tried to brand themselves as Democrats. Obviously, they're nothing of the sort. They've moved on. It should be the Communist Party. We just name it the Communist Party and move on. But they continue with to think that because they can steal all the elections in the big cities, that they are immune to prosecution. And that's got to stop. And that's one of the reasons you've been railing on for months now. And I've been supporting you in your railing about we've got to be arresting these people and holding them accountable and throwing them in prison. And, and so it's just so smoking annoying. Yeah. It's just shrieking in our brains all the time that they're not arresting these people. And I got to say again about Winsome Sears, I loved that lady when she was elected with Youngkin, but she disappeared and became a non-entity for several years. And now all of a sudden she's coming back. I'm getting emails from her all the time, fundraising. I'm like, where have you been? So, we still have some cleanup on aisle 6, the Republican aisle, to take care of too. But I hope she wins. But you know what? The only hope she had was to make it too big to rig. She's not going to make it too big to rig when she's been absent for 4 years. People look at that as a rhino way of doing. So anyway, the whole thing is just madcap. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, again, I wish Winsome Sears would have been more present during the last 4 years. I really liked her when she was running and pushing back against the left. But like the only story we've seen is them in this race regarding her prior to this was they had Democrats showing up with racist signs at her rallies. She went after them for that. And there's been very little otherwise. But to one point you made, when the Democrats picked this name, it was a little more applicable back in 1776 when it was Thomas Jefferson and all that. And then, they were patriots then. They wanted what was best for the country. But, now that's clearly not the same. We can argue about when they changed into a communist trying to destroy our nation. But, the fact of the matter is they certainly don't represent the kind of Democrat values that they did, in Kennedy's time, in JFK's time. Excuse me. Or certainly not in Jefferson's time. But yeah, they're still hiding under that mask. But But yeah, we've really got to worry about this guy, this Jay Jones. This is somebody we talked about a few weeks ago that, he's talked openly, and part of his campaign is prosecuting a lot of Trump's officials that live in Virginia, and even using like the location of Langley and other things to pursue their political goals by filing lawsuits from the state and whatever else, basically using lawfare to shut down Trump's cabinet appointees and others if he wins this election coming up here in November. And I think it just shifted barely out of his favor, and then it's neck and neck with Spanberger and Winsome Sears right now, who, before Spanberger had a pretty significant lead. But a lot of what's happened over the last few weeks has really hurt their chances. But we'll pull this up, too, because, again, you've got the media running out there, running air cover for Spanberger over and over again. 2 weeks ago was her cheating in college scandal, lying about that, about not being able to walk with the class, trying to weasel out of it or pretend she didn't understand the question when she was being interviewed. Then that caught up with her. And now we have this. Virginia Democrat gubernatorial nominee worked at Saudi school known for Hamas links and jihadi graduates. Well, again, your local media there should be digging into this, asking questions, but they're not going to. They're going to run cover. I'm sure they're already out there coming up with excuses for this. But again, she's a CIA plant, and she is not there to help Virginia and the citizens of Virginia. She's going to undo everything. She's going to support all the trans kids in schools and drag events and at libraries, all the other nonsense, in addition to backing up this Jay Jones as he tries to sabotage the Trump administration.
Abigail Spanberger, Winsome Sears should have started in on her about 2 years ago. She knew she was going to be running against her. And I think it might be too little too late, but she's an absolute Satanist. This whole CIA spook thing, former CIA spook thing that the Democrats are doing, they do it to fake out people. It's like a deep fake to make their voters think that these people care about the country. Obviously, CIA people don't care about the country anymore. They hate Trump. They hate the whole idea of making America great again. So they're trying to actually destroy the country. And there's a shocking similarity between Abigail Spanberger and Elise Slotkin up in the huge butch lesbian up in Michigan, who is also a former CIA spook. So CIA spooks need to have their records released quickly because they're obviously running for higher offices like governor and things like this. Then they're not in the CIA anymore. So let's just release all their records and unredacted as well. And so these are awful people, and it just shows how arrogant they are. This guy Jones is. I would look for him after he steals the AG election and kicks out the good Republican man who's in there now. I would look for him to start immediately running for president, speaking at the Democrat convention, things like this, like they did with Obama when he was a junior senator there and he was, still a community organizer. So they're going to start setting him up because their arrogance and their Luciferian ways know no end.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be nice to see it. If we didn't wait for problems like this to manifest, and the GOP was actually out there ahead of things, and we've got to learn some lessons on our side and start fighting to win instead of waiting at the last minute and then making excuses. But somebody that doesn't do that tries to be out ahead of things, is Senator Kennedy. So I got a video of this I want to play, but this is a great moment over the weekend, and I learned a lot. Watch Senator Kennedy list the crazy things AOC and other leftist Dems are demanding over the shutdown. And this gets beyond the just wanting to fund unlimited health care for illegal aliens. I thought America had already decided a lot of this, but apparently not.
Basically, President Trump just said, we want you to take some stuff out of the budget that we think is wasteful. And we did. And that upset the Congresswoman. She's entitled to be upset if she wants to. But that really upset the socialist wing of the party. And so we took out, and here's what they want us to put back in. We found that under President Biden, they were spending $3 million for circumcisions and vasectomies in Zambia. We took that out. The Congresswoman says, we're going to shut down government till you put that back in. We found $500,000 of American taxpayer money for electric buses in Rwanda. We found $3.6 million for pastry cooking classes and dance focus groups for male prostitutes in Haiti. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. It was in the budget under President Biden. We took it out. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez in the socialist wing, the loon wing of the Democratic Party, says we're going to shut down government until you put it back in. I'll just read you a few more that we took out. They are demanding we put back in. $6 million for media organizations for the Palestinians. $833,000 for transgender people in Nepal. $300,000 for a pride parade in Lesotho. $882,000 for social media and mentorship in Serbia. $4.2 million. We took it out. The Congresswoman and the socialist wing of their party says we got to put that back in for the open government. $4.2 million for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex people in the Western Balkans and Uganda. I could spend the rest of the afternoon here. We took all that out. It upset Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. It upset the socialist wing of her party. And now that wing of her party and the Congresswoman are threatening all other Democrats and saying, you've got to shut that government down until we get what we want. And part of what they want is to add this kind of stuff back into the bill. And that
Unbelievable. I had to look up Lesotho. I didn't even know that was a country, but apparently it's over there near South Africa. But I don't know why we're funding their drag shows. It seems like if they want to destroy their country, we can let them do it on their own. We shouldn't be financing it. Same with the rest of this nonsense. So, one of the other provisions I brought that they're demanding be put in this bill basically undoes a lot of the changes that were implemented through the big, beautiful bill. So they want to go back to the way things were, spending all our money on this nonsense. And some of this stuff is actually impossible now that Trump's taken it to the Supreme Court and ruled in his favor. They can't just give the money, back to the $4 billion, I think is what it was, that somebody realized that Trump had already won a case for. Now it has. If they really want that spending, it's going to have to be reauthorized. They can't just undo things because now the Supreme Court's ruled. But again, this is absolute nonsense. And my real question is, how long is this going to continue for? What, Bill? What do you think the over/under is on this? Do you think they cave by Friday, or do you think they carry this out for a few more weeks?
I think they cave by Friday. But look at the two main character actors in this passion play that's going on. We've got the lovable, the epic Senator John Kennedy, who's the only downside is that you have to refer to Senator Kennedy so much that you're not sure whether we're referring to Teddy Kennedy or John Kennedy when he was in the Senate. And this is a third iteration of Senator Kennedy that's much better than the first two. And so he should have a great big finger pointing emoticon down over his head all the time. This is the guy we need. It's kind of like Esther in the Bible. He was born for such times as these. And his use of humor and ridicule is masterful, just like Trump. So he's a real important guy in our movement right now. Now you take the other one, the bartender, little Sandy Cortez from Westchester County, New York. We need to prioritize her and really go to work on her and send her back to being a bartender. If anybody will hire her when we're done with her, she's getting way too much influence. If she's got Schumer scared, now's the time to cut her out. Because there's mortgage stuff going on. Initially, she was in this for the money. You mean I can get $174,000 a year? Like that. And now all of a sudden she's got an agenda, so she's much more dangerous. So we got to get rid of her. She's probably involved in highly illegal things. And the last thing I want to say on this topic is, the reason they're coming back with this stuff is because I think the mistake we're making is we're actually thinking $833,000 is going to Nepal to support transgender classes. It's not going there. None of the money is going to these ridiculous things. It's all being stolen under the guise of this stuff. So they want to keep the U.S. piggy bank, the taxpayer piggy bank, open to them to go in and steal, just like they've been stealing from Medicare and Social Security. The Democrat senators and congressmen have been putting IOUs in for decades now. That's why they keep predicting it's going to go down. So it's going to be bankrupt soon. So these are all money laundering operations. And had Elon Musk and President Trump not broken up briefly, I have a feeling this is where Elon Musk was going, to find out whether these monies were actually ever received by any of the supposed recipients, and he would have found out they weren't. Then we would have been able to track it down to those senators who eventually got the money and those Congress people who got the money. Probably mostly Biden and the Obama administration.
Well, and that's one other thing I'll bring up real quick. So, in a brilliant move, Doge is actually exempt from these government shutdowns. They're allowed to continue operating while the government shut down because their purpose is to save money. But yeah, that's what we know is going on. A lot of these NGOs, the money gets laundered to. Yeah, they might have one class on drag show cooking in Uganda or whatever country it was, and they'll be sure to film that for promotional videos, but the other $700,000+ will just get laundered back to Antifa and other leftist entities here, not to mention all the people involved lining their pockets with exorbitant paychecks for doing what's supposedly charity work. But again, this is what they've been doing. Again, Trump's talked about it. Many others have. It's time to revoke the tax exempt status for a lot of these organizations, especially, again, if they're purely there for political purposes. They're not following the law anyway. And as I've discussed with the entity out in California that was handing out the bionic face shields and riot shields, people that donated to them thought, in addition to our tax dollars, but the people that donated to them thought they were going to help homeless people with medical conditions in California, people especially with long-term problems, cancers, things like that they obviously can't pay for on their own. That's what this entity was supposed to be doing, and instead they're there providing material support for violent protesters attacking ICE, for Antifa, for La Raza, for the rest of these violent leftist groups that we need to start really targeting and breaking apart. La Raza, if you really start looking into them, I mean, they're blatantly racist. They actually used to have Mein Kampf and other books of suggested reading on their website back in the early 2000s. I think they finally got rid of some of that. But, La Raza's Spanish for the race. They think that they are the superior race. Their stated purpose is to retake the American Southwest because they think it's stolen land. Well, there's a difference between stolen and conquered, bitches. You better start learning it. Or we should just come in and take northern Mexico, too. All right, guys.
I'm so glad you brought La Raza back into the conversation. They're often forgotten. They need to be included with Antifa, BLM, Code Pink, and all the other supporting terrorist organizations. One last point about the long list of ridiculous and absurd thieving, money laundering activities of the Democrats. One of the first ones you mentioned was money for vasectomies. Of course, this tracks right back to the party of death. They don't want anybody having a nice family in Rwanda or having any kids in Rwanda. Hell, then they'd have to give more money and then take it back, filter it through shell companies, and I guess actually they would want people not to. I don't know which way to go on that, but the party of death loves vasectomies.
Yeah, exactly. Again, this all just needs to be. We need to put a stop to it. We need to go after a lot of these NGOs and other 501c3s, strip their tax exempt status, dissolve the organizations where they're funding terrorism. We've got to start fighting to win and not just talking about it. Otherwise, this 4 years to be gone before we know it. And even if J.D. Vance is in office, if nothing's still been done, they're going to be right back to what they've been doing again. Right now, they're on the run. Right now is the time to strike. They're having problems with funding. They can't raise capital on their own. We got to strike while the iron's hot, cripple them permanently, and then maybe we can save this country. But Bill, thanks for joining today. To the audience, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people to news the mainstream media